Hey y'all, welcome to Strip Down with Marianne. I am Marianne. Thank you so much for joining. This is episode 4. I am so excited to jump into this topic today. First, let me introduce myself. If you are new to me in general, my name is Marianne. I am a survivor of childhood abuses, physical, sexual, emotional, spiritual, and financial, and human trafficking. Those are the topics I talk about. So this is my trigger warning that those are the topics I talk about. And so if that touches you, this topic might touch you. And so if it does, my intent is never to harm. If you are feeling something in regards to this topic, or if you are just now recognizing this in your own self, please reach out to safe people in your area. If you do not know those people, please reach out to me. I will help you find organizations in your area that can help you. So that's my trigger warning. I talk about what I know, y'all, right? So in the first 3 weeks, we talked about human trafficking, what it is. We linked it to a lot of childhood abuses and recognized the similarities, right? In week 2, we talked about the trauma porn, that sharing our stories, those of us who want to share our stories, that it's our story to share, and you help us do it appropriately when we are in a space where we have enough healing that won't hurt us more. And then last week, we talked about when we're in that space, you pay us appropriately. And so this week, after talking about how similar we are, how we've gotten to this point that, yeah, there's a lot of similarities. There's also a lot of talk out there in the social media world, in the world, about, well, what does a survivor look like? And even in survivor circles, that topic comes up, right? What do we look like? And if you're someone who has spoken publicly about your story, I promise someone has said to you in a question and answer session, well, just tell us what to look for. Tell us what they look like so we will identify them. Well, if we all wore a red shirt and blue shoes and a pink hat, that would make it very easy, wouldn't it? If we all got the same exact brand, that would make it very easy, wouldn't it? And that's the problem, is we don't all look the same. My story is my story, right? Your story is your story. My story, while there might be similarities, there might be some crossovers, there might be similarities in thoughts and feelings and actions and behaviors, there might be similarities in abuses, there's also going to be a lot that is different, because I am different and you are different, and the people who trafficked us were different, and where we lived in the country were different, or even what country, right? And so when we start to look at that, I can't tell you what a survivor looks like. I just can't. It's impossible. I can tell you similar vulnerabilities. I can tell you similar precursors that led to the abuse. I can do all of those things, but I cannot tell you what to look for. And so when we're talking about it in the social media realm, we see this a lot where people say, oh, look for this or look for that, and that's a trafficking victim. We've already dispelled some of that, right? But when we're talking about trafficking survivors, severe abuse survivors, people want us to look the same because it makes it easier for people to identify us. I have a trauma in my brain. It would be helpful if there was a sign that said I have a trauma in my brain so that people knew, oh, well, that's why she does that. So that's kind of where we're at today. First, we're going to say we don't fit in a box, right? In looks or behaviors or emotions. We don't fit in a box. Okay, so those are our 3 boxes. Looks, behaviors, and mind is what we're going to talk about today. We don't fit in a box of what we look like or what we act like or what we think like. That's good and it's fine, right? It makes it harder for you guys to identify us, but we're going to talk about part of why we don't fit in a box, okay? And help us understand our boxes a little bit better and help you maybe understand us a little better. So we don't look any certain way. I was never branded, or I have tattoos, but I was not tattooed by a trafficker. And so that's not part of my story. Lots of people were. That is part of their story, but I can't tell you, oh, look for a certain tattoo. That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. We don't look a certain way. When we start talking about the box of what we look like, we all look different. We all speak to different populations. We speak to the people who we are most similar to. And that's not just in looks, that's in lots of things, right? In how we grew up, how we were raised, what we believe, all of those things. We are most easily accepted by the people we are similar to. And so it makes sense that survivors stay in their populations where they feel comfortable. And so we look different on the outside, but also when you start talking about how we look, as in a box, how we look, that we should look a certain way to do this, to be on TV, to speak on a stage, to do something publicly, to whatever it is, how we should look a certain way. Many of us, our looks were brought into question during sexual abuse, okay? Whether it was for good or for bad, okay? You're good enough, you're not good enough, right? Our looks were used against us in our sexual abuse. A lot of us, okay, my name's Marianne. Hi, y'all. I speak on what I know. I speak on my own personal experience, but what I also know is a lot of survivors have also shared that they feel and have thought the same as I do. I want to normalize how we think and feel as survivors, and I want you all who love us to understand us better. And so we did whatever to our looks as a measure of control. We could not control the chaos and the abuse around us. And so instead of that, we controlled us, okay? We controlled how we looked. It could be on one end of the spectrum, like excessive exercise and taking care of yourself. And that's not good, taking care of yourself. Please hear that. But excessively worrying about how beautiful we are, or excessively trying to make ourselves less attractive, right? And trying to control, because that's what I can control. I can control my person, right? Can't control what's happening to it, but I can control what this is. And so part of that is part of our abuse, right? And so when people, and they mean well, they sure as all get out do, I believe that. When people say, well, you should do XYZ to speak, and people offer me advice all the time. Well, if you did this, you would become more popular. Well, I ain't never been popular, y'all. I don't think it's going to change now. So that happens, right? And so again, Marianne, I speak for me. For me, one of my healing things, one of my tools that I use is grounding, right? And so I am a barefoot type of person. I also do not wash my hair very often. I don't know, a couple times a month, right? And that's part of me. Now, there are people, and please also, this is not against anyone I've ever worked for. I'm just saying this is a thought in society, okay? People used to say that, when women were losing their mind, that, when they had a bad breakup or whatever, going through a trauma, they would like cut their hair or dye their hair. And so it's been seen in society that when we don't fit into a box, I'm a female, I talk from that perspective, okay? Trafficking happens to everybody, but I talk from what I know. And so when we don't fit in that box of looks, that there's something wrong with us. Well, she must still be broken. She must still be going through something. She must not be okay. And so society urges us to wash our hair or put our shoes on, right? Without understanding that, it doesn't really flippin' matter, right? My hair should not matter. But also, that is also my protection. That's my badge. That's my thing, right? That the control that I did not have over my hair in growing up from my abusers, who very much controlled my hair of all things. And so the control I didn't have, that's what I want now. My poor sweet girl, I'm allowed to say her name here, Caitlin, who cuts my hair. It's a good thing she loves me. That's all I can say, because her trying to cut my hair each year is it's like pulling teeth, because it's a battle of how much she's allowed to cut, what she's allowed to do, because it's very much, this is mine and I'm gonna hold it, right? And that's what it boils down to. That doesn't mean I'm broken. It doesn't mean I have so much hair trauma that I don't know how to cut my hair. It means it is something that is comforting to me, that I enjoy, that doesn't affect you all at all. Right? It just doesn't affect you. And so when we're talking about the looks box, asking us to fit in a box in order to speak on a stage, or asking us to fit in a box in order to do certain work, or to fit in certain groups, or talk to certain people, this is who I am, right? These things don't bother people. They should not bother you. And they could be helping me. I'm a barefoot girl. If you've met me, you've seen me. I'm barefoot all the time. I like to get my feet into the earth every single day. It is something that helps to ground me. When I am feeling anxious, feeling unrest in my body, one of the things that helps me is to ground my feet into the earth, into the ground, into whatever I am standing on. When I speak about horrific things publicly, right? Horrific things that happen to me, I say out loud for everybody to form their own opinions on my life. And so one of the things you will see me do, no matter what stage I have been on, if you have seen me speak publicly, most often I've been barefoot. Most often. Because in order to calm me and to have me in a good headspace, my feet need to be able to wiggle around and feel the earth. Doesn't hurt you, doesn't hurt you at all. And it helps me, right? But there are circles, there are people, there are situations that they're like, you can't take your shoes off here. Well, yeah, I can. Because here's the thing. I'm going to give you great content, right? I'm going to do my absolute best when I come speak for you. And so you're going to get the best I can give you. But the absolute best I can give you is also with a calm spirit. And so me using that tool that serves me well, that really doesn't hurt you at all, right? It shouldn't even be a question. And so that's our looks box. First, we don't fit in a box. We don't all look the same, and we shouldn't. And then second, that box could hurt us when you ask us to fit in that box, okay? Next box is our behaviors, right? You all love or hate our behaviors. Trust me, we feel the same. And so I'm going to talk about our 4 trauma responses. And you all have heard these before. I'm not teaching you anything new here. And we're going to go freeze, fawn, fight, and flee. We're going to do it in that order. Because I want to start with behaviors that people tend to think are great behaviors. And first, let me say no judgments here. I've used all of these behaviors in my survival. These are all part of the skill set that I have. I use some more than others. Some are more readily available in my brain. Some are more readily available in certain situations or with certain people. What I think you will recognize is that survivors in general have used all of these at some point, but we all have some that we gravitate to a little bit more, that they're a little bit more at home for us, right? And so just like in the box of looks, we don't all fit in the same box. We don't all behave the same way, right? And sometimes our behaviors, while they were great for survival, can also hurt us. So first of all, what does a survivor act like? Well, I don't know. I would have told you as a child I was a very quiet, obedient child, and you would have thought I was amazing. And then probably, I'd say around 17, 18, 19 years old, you were probably like, ew, like her mouth is gross. Like the things she says are gross. And then probably later on, you would have been like, that person is absolutely insane, right? The things she does and says are absolutely nuts. She is loud and violent and out of control. And all of those are correct. All of them are correct, right? Depending on different phases of my life, different situations, different perpetrators, different whatever, I respond in a different way. I have all these skills. So let's talk about them. We're going to talk about the ones people like the best first. Freeze, right? Quiet and obedient. As a child, you would have seen this in me where I did what I was told. I didn't speak unless I was spoken to. I really didn't make eye contact. And you would have thought I was just a good kid, right? Nothing wrong with that. As an adult, as a survivor, as someone outside of abuse, this is a great thing. I'm sure I need to be more quiet and more obedient in certain situations. However, it can also leave us stuck. So if you are someone, excuse me, who this is your go-to, the quiet, obedient, the freeze, awesome. It serves you well. It served you well. But also recognize when it does not serve you in certain situations. Also recognize you do not always have to be obedient. There are times for you to step up and use your voice and say, absolutely not, right? And so recognize, great skill to have, but also how much of it is actually serving you and how much of it is holding you back from growing where you need to grow, okay? Our next one is fawn. This person, beyond just being quiet and obedient, is more extremely helpful, the true helper, that I will do anything for you person, right? So freeze is more sit there, don't ruffle any feathers. Fawn is let me help you. I'm much less likely to be this one, but the let me help you, let me help you, let me help you person, awesome. I need that person. Lots of us, right? That's a great skill to have. Excuse me. That's a great skill to have. But also, it does not help you if you are not helping yourself first, right? So as you're growing, as you're learning, is this a skill that you have that served you well, survived you well, that is now getting in your way, right? That is now getting in your way of growing, of healing. Are you taking care of yourself and healing yourself, or are you just helping others, right? Are you pouring all your energy into helping someone else and forgetting to take care of your own backyard first, right? Now my favorites, y'all, okay? So my two go-tos, which again, I've used them all, you've used them all. These are my favorites. These are my go-tos, my happy place. Fight, right? Loud, aggressive, sometimes actually fighting, right? That is, yes. Did that serve me well? Yeah, that did. It did. Is it something I need? Hopefully not. I shouldn't have to fight anybody anymore, right? But sometimes I do. What am I doing with this podcast, right? I'm fighting out against bad information. I'm making sure my voice is heard. So finding the proper way to use that skill that I learned that really did serve me well. The problem is I don't always know how to let go of the fight, right? When does it no longer serve me? When does this no longer serve me? When is the fight getting in my own way for what I need to do? When do I need to be more of the quiet, obedient, or the helper, right? When do I need to remember those skills? And the one that comes across, and I want to get this point across too, and we'll go into run, which leads into our mind anyhow. For me, and I think survivors will recognize this, in my head, when I don't punch somebody in the face, right? I think, well, I didn't punch them. Look at me go, right? Look how far I've come. Now, but I might have screamed at the person. And so other people still see me as aggressive, even though I am going, I didn't punch her. That's awesome. And it comes out for me, right? And I think a lot of you, like I said, I'm Marianne, I speak for me, but I think you will recognize this in you, that it's in my littlest of behaviors, right? Even helper, even freezing, it's in the smallest of behaviors where my tone is still very aggressive, right? I've heard this from multiple people in my life, and I believe you all. However, in my head, and survivors, I'm sure you recognize this, in my head, my tone is so much better than it used to be. You all have no idea. Like the fact that I didn't scream at you and I'm not throwing anything, I'm like, well done, ma'am, well done. But you all still hear my tone and you're like, ooh, that's aggressive. I don't hear it that way, right? I hear it in proportion to what it used to be. You hear it in proportion to what society does. And so we're not hearing it from the same perspective. And so when we're talking about changing our behaviors, it is up to us to recognize when we are going too far in our go-to response, but it's also up to the people who love us to recognize, boy, we're a work in progress, and y'all are going to hear me say that every single episode, I bet. We are a work in progress, right? And even though the bar shouldn't be, hey, I'm better than I was before, the bar also should be that, right? We get sobriety one day at a time. We get better one day at a time. And I don't care if you've been out of the life a day. I don't care if you've been out a decade, right? We're still working on those skills that survived us well. And now they get in our way. So that's the fight. And then, of course, my favorite, the flee. Boy, I like to run, right? Don't you like to run away from things? And so running has served me well, right? And I will physically run to get out aggression. That's another one of my go-to skills, right? To get out crazy in my head. It's my time to talk to Jesus sometimes. I think I can hear a little bit better sometimes because it makes all the other stuff get out of the way. But we can also run away. I would have picked up and moved across the country any number of times, right? Just run, time to go. Or we can run in our minds, right? Where we're here, we're still here, but we're not actively here, right? Again, this is something that served us well. Running away from people who hurt us served us well. Running in our minds, dissociating, served us well when we were in the abuse. It does not help us so much now and can get in our way of what we're trying to do. And so we have to learn how to sit. I think my survivors will recognize this and appreciate this. I can vividly remember the feeling and just the joy and the almost like butterflies in my stomach because I was excited and anxious and like, oh my gosh, the very first time I renewed a lease, right? Because I'd never sat still that long. I'd run from everything. It wasn't that long ago, you guys, right? Like that's a part of me. Now, if you know me, I'm a nomad, man. I want to go live in a van. I want to go do all these things. That's part of what I also love. What survived me is also part of my joy, right? It was part of my fun and my happiness, but also can get in the way of me building roots, of building relationships, and even doing this, accomplishing what I need to accomplish, right? That I've been called to do. And so we have to learn when our skill that served us so well is now crossing over into something that we don't need as much, right? That we don't need as much because we still need them all, but we don't need as much. And so that's our behavior box. No, we do not fit in a box for behaviors. I cannot tell you what a survivor acts like, right? And so this is all the boxes that our behavior come in, that we're not the same, but also we kind of are, right? We kind of are because we've all had similar behaviors. And then, like I said, we run in our mind. And the final box I want to talk about today is the one in our mind, the boxes in our mind. Some of those boxes keep us safe. Some of those dissociative boxes keep us safe. So in some of my, I guess, worse abuse, my brain protected itself by going somewhere else, right? Awesome. Thank you, brain. Appreciate you. That box is taped up. It's got good good stuff on it. It's been taped over, it's been wrapped around and saran wrapped. It's good, right? But then there are other boxes that are taped in your mind that are from your trauma, from your parts of unhealing that you haven't quite worked on yet, that they might be taped up, but then the tape starts to unravel, right? The tape, the humidity gets to it, and so it starts to come off a little bit and things start seeping out of that box. We can't control that, right? Nor should we. We have to learn how, when the box opens up, how to handle it, how to close it back up when it needs to be closed back up, right? And how to differentiate what goes in a box and what doesn't, right? Because if we've used boxes in our mind to protect us, chances are we've also used boxes in our mind that have hurt us, okay? We don't get to box up relationships. We don't get to box up things like that. We have to learn how to function in that and how to let those boxes open. I speak publicly. Boxes get ripped open that I didn't have any intention of opening that day. Had no idea we were going to open that box that day. They get ripped open. Okay, I have to know how to close that box. So let's start with when that box gets opened in your mind, how it should get opened and who should open it. You've already heard me say your story is not for everyone. Some boxes are not to be opened by certain people. When you are sharing your story, at the very beginning, it should only be for people who can open the box with you and close the box with you, right? Those are your counselors. Those are your therapists. Trauma competent people who understand opening a box and shutting a box. Now, please don't hear me say that when they shut that box, you're going to walk out on Tuesday and come back next Tuesday and start all over and that week will be peachy. No, sir, no, ma'am. Therapy is work. And so they're going to help you open the box, help you shut the box. You're going to do some work that week and that box is going to flap at you a little bit, right? But when you come back the next week, they're going to help you again, open the box and shut the box, right? And it's a process until you get all the skills that you need to open and shut the box pretty much on your own. We all sometimes need somebody who has better tape. And so at the very beginning, it's only people who can open it and shut it appropriately. Some boxes are not for everyone, right? Some boxes are not for everyone at every season either. It might be for the person, just maybe not now, right? Some boxes should only be opened by professionals who can help you shut them again. But then ultimately, it's up to us, right? It is up to us. We all have these boxes in our mind. I believe that yes, we have similar thoughts and feelings about our abuse and about what happened in our abuse, but I also know that we also have different thoughts and feelings. And what something that was horrific for me might be nothing to you, right? You might be looking at me going, oh, that's it, right? No, we don't judge each other. But we have to learn. Please keep hearing me say that, survivors. We have to learn how to close the boxes ourselves because they're going to get opened. You're going to drive down a road and see something that you were not expecting. You're going to smell something that you were not expecting. You're going to hear something that you were not expecting. Something will happen at some point in your life that will remind you of the abuse that you had no control over that being in your world at that moment, right? And it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. How do you respond? Knowing how to close that box when it opens is the goal of therapy. That is the goal. Not that those boxes go away or stay closed forever, but that as that box gets opened unexpectedly, you know how to close it, or you know how to open it yourself and then shut it back again when need be. So let's talk about what we just said. We don't fit in a box, right? We don't look a certain way, we don't behave a certain way, and we don't think or feel a certain way. Survivors are as unique as you are, right? Look around you. You are the only one of you, right? I'm the only one of me. That is what survivors look like, okay? And even though You can't put us in a box in order to blast it on social media and say, here's what they look like, go find them. Here's what they act like. Especially if you're running programs, we don't all act the same, right? Don't you wish we did? So even though you can't put us in a box and say we look this way, we act this way, we think this way, there are still so many similarities in how we look and how we act and how we think that it's important for us to also recognize this. My goal is always to help survivors recognize it in each other and make it feel normal for us, that it is not weird, that this is our life and our brains and how we do things, right? It's our survival skills, and it's okay. It's okay that we have them, but also always recognize it's our responsibility to continuously heal and grow and learn. And if you love us or you want to work with us, it is your responsibility to recognize we are a work in progress. We are. We want to be better. Trust me. I would like my brain to function differently. It does not. I don't have a magic pill for that. It does not. I'm doing my absolute best. I know you are doing your absolute best too. Let's all just love each other through it, right? We're all doing our best. Guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. As you know, each episode will air every Friday. I think I have now fixed how to find it. You should be able to find it everywhere now. Apparently, I didn't know what I was doing before. Surprise, surprise. And so that is happening. If you want to reach out to me on Instagram, please do. On YouTube, please do. Instagram is my name, my voice. And then, of course, my website, mynamemyvoice.org, if you would like to hire me to speak to your organization or just learn more about me and why I'm here and what I'm doing. Thank you so much for coming. I have enjoyed this episode a lot. I hope you have too. Thank you so much. Peace, y'all.